So today, my husband and I are getting off that cruise ship and visiting Ho Chi Minh City for the first time. We're going to tour some historic sites, learn a little bit about its history, and of course, have some of its food. And you know what? Seeing the city was nothing like I imagined. I guess my mind was full of visions from basically old Vietnam War films. It has changed, believe me. So instead of a ship excursion, I arranged a private excursion with tour by locals, and I met Helen, our guide, and Juan, our driver. And we set off on a 2-hour ride to the city. It was only about maybe 50 miles away, but you know how traffic is. So on the way to Saigon, the countryside was more how I imagined it. But when we arrived at the city, it was a surprise. I'll be honest, I was stunned. You know, I grew up in the Vietnam era, right? Eating dinner and watching on that black and white TV, all the body bags coming back from Vietnam. When I graduated from high school in 1973, the draft was over for young men. Yay! And those are the images that are burned into my brain. So that's why I was so amazed with what I'm seeing. I mean, look at the skyscraper-lined city. There's even bustling cafes, high-end shops. It felt like stepping into an entirely different world. And if you're like me, you might be wondering, why does Ho Chi Minh City feel so, well, capitalistic? I mean, I thought it was a communist country. Well, after the Vietnam War ended, they did try the traditional communist economic model. You know, government basically owned businesses, they owned everything. And guess what? It didn't work. By the 1980s, the country was in poverty. So in 1986, they changed what they were doing and had socialist-oriented market economy. And it opened the doors to private enterprise, foreign investment, and global trade. So while Vietnam is a communist country, daily life in Ho Chi Minh City is fueled more by business, ambition, and some hustle. First major stop was the Reunification Monument, once the presidential palace of South Vietnam. It served as the home and office of South Vietnamese President Nguyen Van Thieu during the Vietnam War. And it's a 100-room building, and it was completed in 1966. And now it's a symbol of Vietnam's reunification and a reminder of their country's struggle for independence. Interestingly, it was only in use for less than 8 years, between October 1967 and April 21st, 1975, when the conflict ended. Walking inside felt like stepping back into the 1960s. You know, it's kind of funny because it shows a kind of lavishness that I believe the revolution was trying to purge. But I'm sure the idea was to impress visiting dignitaries. Just look at this large dining room. I just love that golden yellow carpet. And my understanding is the color yellow symbolizes power. And I love this beautiful light fixture in what I'm going to call the cabinet room. And another room, I call it the red sitting room. Again, just look at that beautiful carpet. So, so gorgeous. Now here is my favorite artwork. It is actually Vietnamese lacquer painting. And this is in the credentials presenting room. Now the top floors were reserved more for family. Not coincidentally, they were also close to an aerial escape route, since a helicopter could land on the rooftop helipad. So we toured the private living quarters. The bedroom was actually kind of simple, but there was ornate carved chairs in the small dining area. And there were multiple dining options from formal to more casual. And I just love the retro modern game room here. There was even a private movie theater. Just look at these bright red seats where news footage and political documentaries were screened for the president and his advisors. And here is evidence of wartime leadership, vintage phones, communication equipment, and giant maps. Now the monument was packed. A lot of school groups because it was the 50th anniversary of reunification. So after sweating through history, we stopped for some much needed iced tea and then on to the Grand Post Office. It was built during the French colonial era. I just love it. It's beautiful. And believe it or not, it's still a functioning post office. But it would feel like mailing a letter inside a museum. The building was constructed when Vietnam was part of French Indochina in the late 19th century. Just look at this vaulted canopy ceiling. And I love these old style telephone booths. But it was very, very noisy here and crowded. So you know me, I couldn't stay long. We had hoped to see the Notre Dame Cathedral across the street too, but it was still going through extensive renovations. And I don't believe it's done until next year. And now my husband's favorite time. We were going for lunch to have some authentic Vietnamese pho. And my husband, I've told you this before, is a pho addict. I mean, he goes anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week to have pho. He just loves it. So we went to this little place with our guide that she recommended. And I'm not a really pho lover. It's okay, but you know what? I'd be happier with a good homemade bowl of chicken noodle soup or maybe oxtail soup. So my husband said the pho was good, but he thought it wasn't quite as rich as the pho he gets at the Vietnamese restaurant he goes to back home. But he was still happy. And then we took a quick spin through a local market. It was full of sights, sounds, and smells. And if you love bustling crowds and bartering, this would be a paradise. Me, not so much. Before heading back to the ship, we made one last unplanned stop at St. Anthony's Catholic Church near Phu My, which is the port that our ship was in. It was another surprise. I never expected to see a brand new Gothic church here. And believe me, it was breathtaking. We got there just as the bells were ringing for 2 p.m. Sunday Mass. Surprisingly, it's a new church. It was built between 2011 and 2022. Yet this massive Gothic-style church looked like it had been plucked, straight out of medieval Europe. I mean, it had soaring spires, intricate stonework, and beautiful stained glass. So take a leisurely walk with me up the statue-lined path, and we'll just take a quick peek in since Mass is starting. And then these marvelous doors, so beautiful. They feature St. Anthony of Padua, who is the patron saint of the poor and sailors and fishermen, priests and travelers. And of course, he's the namesake of the church. And near the exit gates was this wonderful bonsai tree with its gnarled roots over stone. It was a masterpiece in itself. So we made it back to the ship with time to spare. As we waited for sail away, I watched the sun set through the haze, a brilliant, bright orange ball sinking into the horizon. But you know what? What truly made this day special was Helen, our guide. She wasn't just knowledgeable. She made us feel like we were seeing the city through her eyes, like we were her friends going into the city. It's one thing to visit place, it's another thing to connect with it. Thanks to Helen and the vibrant spirit of Ho Chi Minh City, I left with a new understanding and a deep appreciation how much things can change if you're willing to see it with fresh eyes. Have you been to Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City? What were your impressions? Be sure to join me next week when we'll explore Bangkok. So remember, subscribe and adventure awaits.